So because the holes in here weren't 1/4 inch to start with, and I'm using 1/4 20s, I had to actually enlarge the hole there. No big deal. Now what I'm doing is mounting up the angle iron to it. When I drilled the holes in the angle iron, I did it so that these should sit flush right here. So that's part of the reason why I'm doing it here, is that I can, if there's any slop in the holes, I can keep these two lined up and perfectly parallel. Okay, and then put them back in the runners. Whoops, missed the bearing there. There we go. And these are soft close, so once they oh, that one was triggered already. Once they hit that spot, they'll pull themselves closed. There we go. So they have a detent that will keep them from coming out. Once they come out a full 2 feet or whatever, and once you tuck them back in there. I am not any kind of woodsmith or carpenter, anything like that, but I can cut a piece of wood. That's all I need. I thought I'd show this real quick since I am cutting it. These are the shelves for the lathe project. Okay, so what I've done is, this is the most convenient way for me to cut. Okay, you know, if I turn the saw around, I'd have to cut left-handed. It would keep a lot of the debris from flying on me, but it makes it hard to see the line, what you're doing, stuff like that. So really what I'd like to do is to be able to lay a straight edge down here, put that on there, cut it straight across. Okay, so that's what I'm doing now. In order to figure that out, okay, I've taken and measured and to the edge of the saw blade, and I can check both of them. They're both really close. This doesn't have a very wide curve to it. The teeth are angled different directions, but they're not really, they're not bent off to the side or anything like that. It's just a small carbide blade. So anyway, it's real close to 1 inch. In fact, for all intents and purposes, it is 1 inch, okay? So that means that whatever measurement I lay down on the board here, I want to do my line 1 inch out and clamp my straight edge to it. Okay, the other thing I want to consider here too is the grain of the wood. Okay, it's plywood, which means, you know, the grain's changing that stuff, but the two outer sheets, the grain goes the same direction. Okay, and you can see this was a fresh cut here, and you can see that's nice and clean. Okay, if I cut it across the grain, it tears up a bunch of little splinters there, and depending on the edge of the wood near there, it can tear it up a lot. Okay, so I used that in considering whether or not which way to cut this. Okay, so I have the grain laying left to right here, so that when I cut it, I'm cutting with the grain, and I'll get a cleaner cut, because this piece is basically 2 foot by 2 foot. Okay, so I already cut the bigger shelves. These shelves are going to be 15.5 inches wide. So why did I mark it at 16.25? Because I'm not too bright. So that's probably good that I came back to do this. That one's marked at 16.5. Yeah, I would have had a nice angle there. Don't have to be too bright to be me. So I also have, those splinters are minimized also if the blade is cutting up. Okay, the splinters will be on the top side that you're looking at. So I want the underside of the shelf to be up when I cut. That'll be the dirty side if it is going to splitter. The cleaner side will be on the bottom. So let's see if we can get these clamped down here. First when you get close, and then when you line this one up, since it is pivoted on the thing, it usually throws it off of here. So, but this isn't brain surgery or anything like that, so how close we are doesn't matter so much. Need to make sure I'm off the edge of the board there. So, the underside, I saw the splinters coming up, but they really didn't leave any splinters, you know, on the edge of the board. It was the pieces actually getting cut up out of there. So this underside here came out really nice. You could see, I don't know, maybe I don't have it zoomed in enough for you to make out, but you know, there is some splinterage and stuff like that along here. So it's good that that's on the bottom side. Thought I'd also point out too, usually the bottom side, the label side, see all the knots? Okay, veneered wood. This side looks a whole lot better, a whole lot cleaner. It's got footballs cut in everywhere there was a notch. So although it's not high quality veneer or anything like that, this side definitely looks better and would be more presentable. So I pretty much have the 3 of these done on this side. Okay. They were a bit more challenging than I thought they were going to be. I had some grief and changed up things and stuff like that, and so I decided, you know, I'm going to do those 3, figure out exactly how I'm going to do it, and then I'll do some video on what I figured out when I do these 3. A couple things, you know, putting the T-nuts in, I had fired up a wood bit and put a little countersink in there so that that would set in. Well, then I found that just pulling them in tight enough, they actually have a little, the edge is rather sharp there. And it pulls into the wood, and it does pull up a couple splinters, but not that big a deal. And I realized that, you know, for what it's doing and everything, there's no point in, because I would have to mark and drill the holes, go do the wood bit, come back, mount it, you know, and I was taking the wood off and on 2 or 3 times. So I also found out that, you know, I had drilled everything pretty accurate. Well, this whole table is got a twist in it. So over here, this shelf is even with the leg here. But if I set this in line, it's nice and parallel, but it's sticking out here a good ½ inch. So there's a twist in there somewhere. Not that big a deal. Not really much of an issue. But I did find out that in order to, like on this one gave me a bunch of grief. I ended up having to open up the holes on the metal. So I went back with a bigger drill bit and opened that up. Because I was getting some binding. It was pushing too far apart. So once I did that, you know, man, now it rolls really nice. So let's go ahead and see about putting this one on. Now, originally what I was doing was trying to lay it on top here like this and mark the first holes. And then I found that, well, I could just clamp it up underneath there and hold it. So I think I'm going to do this one first because it will be a little bit easier maybe. Maybe. Okay. So, I've got it suspended up there. These seem to have a little bit more space to them. On these, I ended up having to bevel the edges with the belt grinder so that they would sit in more, because I cut them a little, they were a little tighter widthwise. And I should probably do that with these too. Yeah, because like back here, this side, it's clamped in tight to that corner there. So let's go ahead and do that. On the other thing, I kept getting it all turned around and stuff like that, and since things are a little twisted, wherever the holes are, stuff like that, I need to put that shelf back the same way. So I've got knots on the top side. This is the top, this is the bottom. I'm working on everything upside down. So there's my arrow to show me which side is the front, and then I just put a number on there for which shelf it is. This is 2, this is 2. Big difference in the width there, so I'm not too worried about them both being labeled 2. That drill bit is a little bit bigger, and it's sized pretty much for these T-nuts. If it was binding up, basically what I would do is I'd come in here with a little bit bigger drill bit and I'd drill all just the metal holes to give it a little bit more flex. I'll clean the debris out away from the hole there. Mainly just to get it started. And then I'll seat it down. And sometimes they bow like that, but you know it's down flush enough that we'll call it good. Cool. I think that's good enough. Okay, I still like where that's at. Okay. This is fairly common. There's usually a button or a ball. These happen to have a little pull-down tab that releases it. Okay. All of the sliders are identical left to right, so on the other side, I'll have to lift up. And then it just comes right out. They put a little lubricant, a little grease basically in the channels there, so as much as I would like to have some lubricant in there, I can always lubricate it later, but I mainly want the debris out of it. That's the big thing for now, is I want it clean so they slide in and out. And, you know, I work in a job where dust is a big problem. And it's far better to not lubricate the bearings than to lubricate them, because once you lubricate them, then all the dust and debris and everything like that starts building up and sticking to them. So it's better to have dry bearings, especially in a situation where, like this, where they're not high speed, they're not high load. All right, and you can hear them click there. Basically, it's push them all the way in. They should latch. I think we're good to go here. Cool. Now I got to do the same thing to the other ones. Well, it's about as good as it's going to get. I dumped about 2.5 cans of rattle can gloss black on it. No prep work. You know, I didn't wipe it down. I wiped it down with my hand just to make sure the dust was off it and stuff like that. But you know, I didn't bother with degreaser or anything like that. And the drawers, basically, they're only painted black about halfway back, and then they're just frosted black, basically, just because I'm probably going to lay some drawer liner on it anyway. But when you walk up and look at it, the drawers look black. I didn't quite have enough paint to make it look nice on the back half there. There's some back toward the back there, right around there. It's balled up, stuff like that, but you know, the drip pan is going on top here, and then the computers are going the back. You're not even going to see any of that. So now this is just a rubber foot that I got at Home Depot. There's ribbed lines inside there. Okay, I'm going to come down to the second one here, and I'm just going to kind of carefully cut around. I want it a little bit shorter because the lock nut on the foot. Okay, and so you could leave it like that. I think I'm going to see if I can flatten that out just a bit. I got it dirty. Not that you need to clean that up at all, but let's put it on one of the feet. Okay. So that ought to work pretty good. Well, I got the 4 feet down, and you know, there's no way the bench is going to slide around. The one thing is the rubber's too thick. It's too squishy. You know, I mean, it's pretty solid, and that'll do some vibration isolation. But I did want to say one thing, that I don't know for sure that this table is flat, square. You know, that 2-inch thick piece of wood on the other bench probably was. So what I do need to do still is, once I get the table leveled up and in place and everything like that, I need to come back and check the bed of the lathe and make sure that I haven't induced any kind of twist in it. Okay? If I have, then basically I need to loosen up this end and shim one side or the other to take the twist out. I really kind of hope there isn't any, but, you know, so I welded those braces under there. And I have no clue how flat the top of the table is. So that will be something I need to do. But I'm real pleased with it. Nice. Now I probably will put some other handles on here to make it a little easier to grab. But you know, see the way I have it done, it pulls all the way out. And these slides should be strong enough to hold that out on the end, but since this is a fairly heavy item, I'll put it toward the back. And believe it or not, that 8-inch jaw, 8-inch forejaw came with this little lathe to put on here. It's only got a 9-inch swing. That's an 8-inch jaw, so, you know, hey.